Good morning. My name is Dr. Larry Force, and I'm a professor of psychology at Mount St. Mary College in Newburgh, and I'm co-director of the Center on Aging and Disability Policy. Through that venue of the center, we were able to receive funding from New York State DDPC, Developmental Disability Planning Council, for a 3-year grant on using mindfulness-based stress reduction as a tool for parents who have children with special needs. The response that we've received across the year 1 was extremely positive, across year 2 was extremely positive, and we were doing small groups, we're still doing small groups, then we were doing train the trainer, and now because of the current events, what we've decided to do, and it's been received very well, is to be able to take the material that we have and develop a virtual platform for it. Our purpose really for this exchange, it's called a school exchange, Proactive Caring School Exchange, is really to develop a virtual presence and support for parents that have children that are now home and children with special needs. The two people that are moderators of this and presenters are Peggy Pisano as school psychologist and lisanathan as parent advocate and also a meditator. And one of the things that Lisa said in an earlier discussion is that it's wonderful that schools are reaching out. However, my child or lots of people I know that have children with special needs are never going to sit in front of a computer. So the question is, how can we be present for families? How can we be present for individuals? So we started this as an informal discussion a couple of weeks ago. We received great feedback, and now we're continuing. We talked about going through April, but I really think that what I'm hearing is that schools possibly not restarting. I think that we're going to have a discussion about continuing all the way through, the school year. Through the school year, because most people will be at home. I've asked Lisa and Peggy if they could put together a couple of topics, and they've done a wonderful job. Last week, it was about managing behavior in a mindful way. This week, it's about combating fear and anxiety and letting go of stress through relaxation and meditation. And I think that all of us realize the value of staying in the moment and the value of taking a breath, literally and figuratively. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Lisa or Peggy. And if you can unmute yourself, and let's begin this exchange. And the topic again is combating fear and anxiety, letting go of stress through relaxation and meditation. They'll present their material for about 15 minutes or so, and then we open it up for exchange, questions, and observations. So please, Lisa and Peggy.
Peggy, do you want to start and do some overall stuff, and then I'll do my thing?
So I just, recap what Larry said last week. We worked on, sort of behavioral strategies for dealing with, difficult situations that parents are facing at home. Typically, those parents would have the support of multitudes of people, and now the parents and guardians are sort of on their own. So this week, we thought we would work on fear and anxieties and just kind of some strategies for dealing with them in a sort of psychological way or psychological construct, and then also in a mindful, meditative sort of way. So Lisa, did you want to just recap the kind of breathing things you did last week? So we thought that perhaps we would review a little bit of all of the mindfulness stuff that we do each week so that we are practicing those things during the week, and then kind of move on to a new topic and then look at some of the ways that we can support those things that are occurring in the family in a mindful way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can go over those, the kind of relaxation breath that we did last week. And I wanted to also bring up the topic. I want to review what we did and bring up the topic of how to deal with fear in the meditation setting. So I have a meditation to do. So, but you just want to review the breath for now? Like, what we do and then meditate a little bit later as more people come on?
I think, because I think the whole premise of what we're doing is that, practice, 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 not just in these 15 minutes that we're here.
Okay. All right. That's great. All right. So the breathing, and this is a relaxation response. This is a way to take your switch your nervous system from a fight or flight response to a rest and relax response. So the way you do that, and again, you might do it a couple of times and it might be like, oh, I don't feel anything. This is not working for me. But like with anything, practice improves. Practice makes it better, and you'll get more benefit from it the more you do it. So what you do is you're going to breathe in through your nose. And it's important when you breathe in that you feel your belly expanding. So you're going to breathe in through your nose. And I want to add like a counting to it, because the counting also helps with the meditation process. So what you're going to do is you're going to breathe in, feel your belly expand for a count of 4. You're going to hold your breath for 8. And then you're going to breathe out through your nose. You're going to breathe out through your mouth like you're breathing out through a straw. You're going to like purse your lips and like you're trying to force the air through a straw, and do that for a count of 12. And do that in a cycle. And what that does is, and the more you do it, the more your body will respond to it, is to change from that fight or flight response. And if the 4, 8, 12 doesn't work for you, you can switch it up until you can do that. But the important thing is to make the exhale longer than the inhale. So it's the belly expanding, breathing in through your nose for 4, holding your breath for 8, breathing out through your mouth like you're breathing through a straw for a count of 12. And just doing that nice and gently and rhythmically. You can count it in your head for a few cycles. So that's the breathing. For that fight or flight, when you're really in a state or you just really want to relax. I did it this morning thinking about doing this podcast. I said, I'm trying to get all this stuff together. And I go, okay, you know what, Lisa? Just take a breath. So.
Okay, that's good, because we have to practice sort of what we preach. Obviously.
Exactly.
So I thought we would start by just some definitions of the things that people are feeling and just kind of what's occurring in people's lives. Now, obviously, everybody's family is different. And, kind of what I've thought over the past week is that everybody has a story, and everybody's story is different, and everybody's story is most important to them. And but we all are facing these difficult and challenging times in varied ways. So we kind of broke up today's talk, if you will, into 2 categories: one about fear, and then one about anxiety. And so I thought I would just start by defining those things, and then Lisa's going to kind of come forward with some strategies to use in a mindful way, and then I have some kind of behavioral sort of strategies to use that psychologically might be supportive. So fear, and I think Lisa kind of hit the nail on the head when she said fear was a flight or fright kind of survival method. That's where it comes from. It comes from our ancestors way back when they were, challenged by things that were scary and difficult, and animals and all of that. So when we feel fear, we feel like either we should leave or we should stay and fight. And that's what all of us feel in the face of fear. Fear is different for all of us. And I think in today's world, it's very difficult to compartmentalize fear from anxiety, because I think we're feeling both at the same time. And I think it depends on the circumstances. So for example, if we're fearful of becoming ill, or our family members ill, or our children are ill, those are real fears, tangible things that people feel right now. Versus anxiety, which is that kind of pit in your stomach thing that feels kind of uncomfortable, but you don't necessarily feel like you have to run from the circumstances. And so if we can distinguish those things in that way, we can have a better sense. The difficulty with fear, and anxiety too, but we'll get to that. The difficulty with fear is prolonged fear can lead to phobias and strategies that people use to stay out of the circumstances. And so in today's world and in today's circumstances, we have to try to temper that fear for our children and for ourselves, for that matter, and all of our family members, because the one thing we don't want to develop once we get to the end of what's happening out there in the world is that our children are afraid to go back out in the world, or they're afraid to socialize and they become almost phobic about interacting or leaving the home. So there's always a balance. And I think that's difficult for parents because they are fearful, and we all are. So it's difficult to balance your own fears with the fears that you sort of give off to your children. And I think that in today's world is probably the most difficult, because there are real fears out there. And so we have to balance and keep in perspective our fears so that we don't increase the fears of our children. And, you know, children with disabilities reason differently sometimes, and so they don't understand, or young children for that matter, they have difficulty understanding some of these things. So there are some ways to kind of overcome fear. Most of them have to do with therapeutic environments. And if you're not currently in a therapeutic situation with someone, then it's difficult for parents to engage in that way. But there are some things: letting children express their fears, letting children, talk about what scares them. And then, parents can, and it's sort of called cognitive behavioral therapy, they sort of reframe those things. Yes, there are real challenges out there in the world, but we're home, we're safe, we're doing our part to wash our hands and keep things, organized and safe. And so, a way of reassuring your child, recognizing that they're fearful, but also trying to keep that balance and perspective. One of the other therapeutic tasks that social workers, psychologists, doctors is called, sort of an exposure therapy, where you kind of expose the person to the fear, but in a systematic way, also while having the person work on relaxation strategies in the face of that fear. So that's one of the things that we're going to kind of talk about today, so that when Lisa's going to talk about some of those relaxation strategies, when your child is fearful or upset about the world's circumstances, they can call upon the strategies that hopefully we'll teach you, and you can use that with your children. So that's just a little thumbnail about fear. Anxiety, on the other hand, and sometimes, they sort of feel the same. They're kind of a mixed bag, I think. But anxiety is that real pit of your stomach kind of tension. You don't necessarily feel like you're going to run from the room, but you just feel that uncomfortable way of dealing depending on the circumstances. And sometimes there are real physical changes with anxiety. You might feel your heart rate might increase, or you might be worried, or you might be upset, or you might feel like your pulse is quickening. So, those are some physiological things that happen with anxiety. There are two kinds of, well, there are probably more, but there are two basic kinds of anxiety, just sort of a generalized anxiety, or a general anxiety that we all feel. And I think this is where most of us are right now in the world. And that is, just, I feel uncomfortable, I'm worried, I just don't feel right about what's happening, I'm worried about going out to the store, should I go to the store, should I not? All of those things, those are kind of general anxieties that we are feeling and thinking about today's world. A higher level of anxiety is a real clinical anxiety, and that is really when a person just can't function, that their anxiety becomes increased to the point where they really cannot function in their world. And those are the things, obviously, we want to prevent for ourselves and for our children, that we don't want them to withdraw, because we're talking about social distancing and staying away from people. We don't want them to withdraw to the point where, again, they have a real anxiety about getting out there and getting back into the world, because we all will have to get there sometime. So, just some behavioral sort of strategies. There are some for helping children deal with or coping with fear and anxiety. And I think the primary one is to allow children to talk about and feel what they're feeling. And let them express to you, if, as best they can, what's going on. And again, the level of difficulty that a child with disability might have in expressing that thing is the challenge for parents. But you might know from a child's behavior. Maybe they're doing more pacing. Maybe they're doing more, you know, in the way of obsessive compulsive behaviors if they have those kinds of tendencies. And so as a parent, we're watching for those things and then perhaps bringing that to the forefront for our children for discussion as best they can discuss those things. The other thing that kind of helps with fear and anxiety is try to put, you know, some positives into a child's life, or family life for that matter. And so try to give them some supports. Maybe you do something like, what were we grateful for today? Because there are positive things that are happening in the world, even though I think we're all sort of obsessed with the news and the negative media. But, you know, maybe at the dinner table, everybody goes around and talks about one good thing that happened today, or what did I do today that was a positive thing, so that you kind of keep your mindset and your children's mindset in some positive world. You can talk to them about the positive things that they're doing and we're doing as a family. We're doing hand washing, we're doing social distancing, we're doing, you know, we're walking our dogs more, we're out about more. So, you know, we can talk about those kinds of things as a family so that you can keep the fear and anxiety, hopefully, in some kind of reasonable perspective. I think limiting the media exposure, I think for adults and children, I find myself, you know, I wake up in the morning and I get to the news, and then if I don't shut it down, then I spend the day worrying about all the numbers and all the things and all, you know, when are we going to get back to life as usual? So I think for children, and certainly children with disabilities, that limit on exposure is critical, because sometimes they can't process. You know, adults are having a hard time processing all the information. So I would do that. And then finally, searching out good news about the world and about the day. We just got it on an email. One of our colleagues at school got married, and they, in a limited sort of married way, but they sent pictures of themselves and the officiates, and it was lovely, and it was a very nice thing. I think it helped us as adults, and it certainly obviously was something for her to recognize and be proud of. So I think that those are some behavioral kind of strategies. Also staying connected as best we can, but in a limited sort of way. So that's the kind of the challenge. But you know, kids are much better at technology, and even students with disabilities probably are better than I am, at least, with technology. But staying connected either on the phone or through the media, through the technology, but try to keep that social connection, because again, we're all limiting those things, and we're here on this, you know, this video chat, but people with disabilities maybe can't do this. And so you have to try to find another way for them to be connected to their peers or their family or their teachers or whomever. So I think that's the thumbnail sort of psychological perspective of fear and anxiety. I think, Lisa, do you want to talk about some of the ways in a strategy, meditative way we can combat those things?
Sure. Thanks, Peggy. And one thing, though, I wanted to, you know, the positive, thinking about the positive, I think is great. I know tonight we're going to do our first virtual Seder. I'm going to do one tomorrow night, you know, so which is really nice, because it's like we can't get to do this, you know, together. So I think it's a really nice thing to get together with this, and it's going to be fun because we've never done this before. So it's going to be like, all right, let's see. The other thing with kids, I was thinking, especially with, you know, children with special needs who may have difficulty grasping some of the more concrete things, is I was thinking to like make a face mask, even like a special face mask. It's like, okay, we're going to make a mask to keep away the germs. You can decorate it together, even if it's made out of paper, because they're not going out, but something special if they're feeling anxious, they can put on. Maybe a special blanket. It's like, this protects you, you know, something to feel comfort. You could do, I know there's some people doing videos on kids washing hands, like showing how the germs come off the hands, like putting on watercolor, you know, like a washable paint and stuff. and seeing how you wash your hands to get all the germs away. Just something concrete to do to see like how it works. Maybe, and the thing with fear, I wanted to mention, fear is as contagious as the coronavirus itself. And you don't have to be near somebody to be sneezed on or coughed on to get it. It can come from the media. It can come from anywhere. So, it's the thing about toilet paper. I mean, like you go in, it's like this fear grips everybody and then it circulates everywhere. And I think we become addicted to the noise of things falling apart. We become addicted to the news cycle, to the spin, the urgency, the speed that this is happening. And we get all this information flooding into our heads about this stuff. And like, how do you, and fear has an energy to it. So how do you release yourself from the grip? And this is an ongoing fear. This is not something that's, happened and then we're processing it. It's continual. So, fear is fed by our thoughts, but we feel it in our bodies. There's lots of, analogies. We feel like, in the pit of our stomach, the butterflies in our stomach, being gripped by, the fear. We feel the tension in our shoulders, in our, when we clamp our jaws. So we feel it there. And meditation provides a way to relax the body, to relax the thoughts. Because if you relax your body, then you can relax your mind. That's why meditations are very often started with a body relaxation. The breathing, relaxing the body, and then you relax the mind. What else do I want to say? Because when we get swirled up in the thoughts of our head, it can be really, really difficult to find our way out. And I'm sure everybody has felt this. And when we, when there's a saying that you name it to tame it. And this is what I want to explore today. When you can name the fear, when you can name what's happening to you, then you can tame it. You have to be able to see it, to really confront it, and then say, okay, now I see you. Now I'm going to deal with you. Now I can kind of deal with you in a way that's more cohesive and focused, instead of just this general, like kind of the ruminating thoughts running away, the wild horses kind of running away thoughts in our head. And okay, so we're going to do this meditation now. And I'm going to ask you to name the fear when we do this meditation. And even if you can't specifically name a fear, like I'm afraid, my parents are alone and I can't see them and I don't know what's happening to them. I'm afraid when I go out to the grocery store, I'm going to pass by somebody who's sick and I may get the disease. I'm afraid, whatever your fear is, but if you can't name it, that's okay. You can just do a general, I feel really afraid right now because everything is out of control and I don't know what to do. I'm afraid of what's going to happen. So it's okay if you can't name it specifically. All right. So, all right. We're going to start the meditation. And this is going to be counterintuitive because I'm going to ask you to enter into the fear that you're feeling. Most of the time when we feel fear, we want to just stop it and push it away and run from it. But what I'm going to ask you to do too is examine it, to put it under the light. Because fear cannot exist in the light. We want to take it away from the darkness of our thoughts and bring it out to the forefront. And that is a counterintuitive process to do. And it may seem really weird when I just first started this, you're like, okay, this seems like really bizarre, but just go with it. Just go with the flow, see what happens. Something may come up. If not, you try it again tomorrow. It's a practice. Again, this is a practice. And you may not understand it or get the benefit from it, but all you have to do is try. Okay. All right. So we're going to start with our breathing. We're going to do 4 cycles of our breathing. Okay. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes, put your feet on the feet, your fat feet flat on the floor. Okay. And you're going to breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. You're going to hold your breath for a count of 8. And you're going to breathe out through your mouth for a count of 12. In through 4. Hold, Kate. Out for 12. In through 4. Hold. Out for 12. One more time. In. Hold. And out. And I just want you to breathe in and out through your nose. Relaxed breaths, not controlling it. Okay, now I want you to think of a fear, a particular fear that you're having. And I want you to look at it, really take it out and examine it. Notice if you feel any tension in your body when you're looking at this fear. And if you are, take a nice deep breath in and blow it out. While we're doing this, I want you to be aware of any tension in your jaw, your face, your eyes, your shoulders, your belly. If you feel it, just breathe into it and relax. Breathe into the tension. Remember, if you can't name a fear, just say, I'm afraid for what's happening right now. I recognize I'm afraid. It's okay to be afraid. And I want you to feel your feet on the floor. I want you to feel grounded in your body. The contact with your seat is on the chair, your feet on the floor. Your hands are touching your lap. As much as you can, bring your awareness to that physical contact with the floor, your chair, your hands. You're breathing in through your nose and out through your nose. I want you to take a minute and feel the gratitude for everybody working on the front lines who are helping us, for the health that you do have, your ability to be together as a family, whatever you are grateful for. I want you to feel that in your heart. Breathe into it. And be grateful that you're taking this time for yourself. Okay. When you're ready, one last breath and open your eyes. Thank you. And again, this is a short meditation, but this is just a basis. And I could feel myself relaxing as I did this because I was nervous starting. And as I started to do this, it's like, I could feel myself getting a little bit more chill because this is like really All right. And, allow yourself what you're feeling without judgment. Don't judge what you're feeling. Just be present with it. The point is to just be there, and whatever comes up, it's okay. And then just going from there and just showing up and just doing, a simple relaxation for like that, even just for a few minutes, can really help. Okay.
You guys did a great job. You really did.
I just wanted to jump in and say, thank you, Lisa. But also that for all of these things, whether they are the sort of psychological behavioral things or the meditative things, we need to practice and practice, because if we do it once, it's not going to solve all the world's problems. So I think take time every day to practice those things with yourself, with your children. And hopefully, as we work through all of this, we see improvements in various things in our lives.
I like, the highlights of what you both said, Peggy, that idea of, if families are not currently working with a therapist, similar yet limited work by parents can be done. I mean, I think that's what we're really talking about, how to take the content of what we have for the material that we're doing the training, how to take the content of what you have in the rhythm of your normal life and be able to integrate it underneath these circumstances. Not everything is an agency-based response. I mean, parents right now, we know of a dear friend of ours that has historically been a teacher, and then she moved on to do some work with a large corporation, and now she's back and she has 3 children, and she has a whole history of teaching, and she's saying this is like overwhelming, and it's not like this is foreign to her. But the fact is that this is overwhelming for many people. And the whole idea of this school exchange of bringing you, Peg, to the table, as a school psychologist, and you, Lisa, as a parent and as an advocate, both of you, but you, Lisa, as a meditator, I think that's the benefit of this, and the fact of how to make it realistic. And Lisa, I really love what you said about the fact that fear is as contagious as the coronavirus. And the fact that both of you, highlighted the fact that kids pick up our own fear. If we're afraid, they're afraid. And that simple task of, that exercise of making the mask or making, doing something, or Peggy, as you were talking about, sitting around the table or just in the rhythm of the day, just saying, what are some of the good things that came up? Because, we all get, attracted and sucked into that, that whole news media thing. And Lisa, I really like what you said about the fact that we become addicted to the noise of things falling apart. It's almost like an adrenaline rush. I know personally myself, there was a 4-day period that I did not look at any news at all. And I got to tell you something, it was a gift to myself. I felt better. Okay. And then the fact is that when I get consumed, by the news, then it's like everything gets ramped up. So any comments or observations from the people that have joined us, please, if you can just unmute yourself, but we would really love to hear from you.
Hi, it's Valerie.
Hi, Valerie.
Hi.
Valerie, so good to see you face to face.
Same, Larry. So if you saw my stress, I'm we're doing distance learning in the same room with a 15-year-old who has autism and a visual impairment. So I also work for Parent to Parent that helps parents with special needs kids. And what I hear from everybody is the distance learning piece. It's so hard for kids in special ed, and it's district by district is different. I'm on Long Island, so I'm talking to parents on Long Island, and one school district is giving them a lot of work and another school district isn't. One is using Zoom and one isn't. So parents are really, and personally really, that's why I kept going on and off, because I'm trying to help him with algebra. God help me. So I would love to hear more about distance learning. And I loved Fear is More Contagious Than the Coronavirus. I'm posting that everywhere I could think of next. Lisa, that was great. That was a great quote. So that's my biggest concern. And what I'm hearing from parents is the distance learning piece is just.
And Valerie, could you just spend a moment and tell people, Valerie is involved with Parent to Parent. And
yeah.
And Parent to Parent received funding, as we did, from the New York State Developmental Disability Planning Council. And our project is using mindfulness-based stress reduction for parents. And maybe you could talk a moment about your project.
Yeah, thank you. I would love to. So yeah, Parent to Parent's a nonprofit that offers guidance and support for parents of special needs kids. To work there, you have to be a parent of a special need kid. We got funding from the DDPC for a project called Text for Caregivers. And what Text for Caregivers does is offer simple ways to offer self-care, because I think self-care in itself, and I know you guys, I'm preaching to the choir here, it doesn't have to be cruises and, manicures and pedicures and bubble baths. It could be, getting a good app on your phone and playing Candy Crush. It can be taking a walk around the block. It can be binge watching your favorite show. So we're sending out texts weekly to parents. And I call it a tap on your shoulder to make you realize to remember to take care of yourself, a reminder to take care of yourself. It is completely free on both ends, no data charges. It's open to all parents. It's really open to special need parents, but I think any parent can really benefit it. And when we say special needs, it doesn't have to be a very disabled child. It could be your child has a mild learning disability, or your child has ADHD or asthma or allergies. It's really any parent struggling. There's a link on our website that I can send, but it's p2pnys.org is our website. And we customize the text to your caregiving experience. So if you have an older child, we're going to send you text, not about your kid, because everybody's worried about the kid, but like you, we're worried about you. How do you deal with an older child stuck at home with you? At any time, but certainly now even more. So it's really just about taking care of the parent and helping them out. And so far, the response has been great. They're liking it.
It's a great program. And Valerie and I
so is this. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And Valerie and I have had discussions offline.
Yes.
Now the intent is to be able to take parts of our content and make them into your format. And you and I can talk, after this, make them into your format. And we'll give you 30 to 60 days worth of material that you can circulate.
And I also posted this as an additional text, because we have like format of text, but I did post this meeting on Text for Caregivers to let everyone know about it. So that's a nice perk for a parent who's sitting home, has plenty of time right now. I was hoping to see some of my families here, but we'll do it again. So yeah, and we're also doing COVID experience, but we're not same with you guys, we're not bombarding them with stuff, more like you're stuck in the house. Here's a simple way to take care of yourself. Because Larry, I did the same thing. I've turned off the TV. I give up. I'm not going to learn anything new. There's nothing there. And it does present fear to the whole family.
It really does.
It does. So
and what we're doing is we're taking this Zoom video chat, we've recorded it, and then we'll send it out as a link. So
nice.
You could circulate it through your network, and
Absolutely.
Anything you need for us to circulate through our network, consider it done.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's so nice to see you face to face.
You too. You too.
Right,
I'm going to shut up now. Thank you.
How about anyone else? Tracy Phillips, there's zero way that you're getting off this Zoom chat without saying something.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tracy.
So one of the things that I noticed is the first week, Deirdre and I work in the same office space. So when I was texting her back and forth, I was thinking, those school phobic kids, the anxiety is not there anymore, which I think I brought up last week. But I will tell you that this week, with the extension, I'm noticing not only the kids are more anxious, but the parents are more anxious. And I've had more conversations on both sides about things like turn the TV off. you know, get outside. It's 70 degrees. Yesterday was a beautiful day, and I had so many that were just in front of the screen. You know, our district put out a schedule, but for our special needs kids, they really needed to sort of lay out what that day was going to look like. And I'm finding with those kids, and I was thinking as you were presenting this mindfulness, it might be helpful for me to put those exercises right on the schedule I'm providing for them so that they have those reminders too. You know, in essence, the unknown is very unsettling for our anxious kids, and anxiety was an issue long before we headed into this coronavirus. So thanks for doing this again.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you so much for participating.
Tracy, I just wanted to say, I think that's a great idea. And our goal obviously is for practice. So, I mean, if that could be part of a routine for the day for kids and parents or guardians, whomever, I think that's great because, you know, it's only going to get better with practice. And certainly then you can call upon the strategies when faced with increased anxiety or fear or what have you. So I think that plugging it in somewhere to what kids are learning at home is a good idea.
I thought of something too while you were saying that, to create a little space. You know, one of the things in meditation is, you know, you create a little space. It could just be a corner of the room. It could be anywhere, but that you're surrounded and that's your safe space. That's kind of your meditation space. So maybe that would be a good thing for, you know, you getting away from the screen for a minute. Go into your safe space. You surround it with whatever you want to do it. You know, superheroes, you know, unicorns, glittery rainbows, whatever it is, and just make that little spot for them. And they can help decorate it and do it. And that could be, you know, okay, this is my spot I need to be in for a few minutes to just kind of ground myself.
I think that's great because I used that with the littles when they would get anxious in school. They'd create like a little cubby for themselves and they'd put their noise canceling headphones and maybe their manipulatives, and it would be an excuse to get out of their desk to move and they'd go to their spot. So I know people use timeout, but in reality, that child learning when they needed their headphones or when they needed their play toy, it decreased. So being that we are already using that language, it might be easy to convert that into like, let's create this spot in your house now too.
Right. And we can do that. You know, I think we sent out that the PDF about the breathing, like the circle 8 breathing, the infinite breathing, and that, so that could be in that place too. So, you know, you could put your hand on it and practice some of that breathing, whatever works.
Right. Deidre, how about comments or observations, reflection?
Yes. Hi, Deirdre McGuire. I'm a psychologist at Psychologist High School. I think one thing that jumped out at me that really connected each of your presentations was gratitude, which I think in my practice and in my own everyday life, I think it's one of the most important kind of tenets for mental health. And I think it starts with mindfulness really, because you have to be present in the moment and be able to notice, you know, what there is to be grateful for. And I think again, last week we talked a lot about how it is good to, you know, block off time for mindfulness or meditation, but also to incorporate it into your everyday activities. So anything, eating mindfully, you know, like really appreciating the meal that you have in front of you, taking that time to just, you know, be present in your body and use all your senses, you know, smell your food, taste it, rather than kind of being on that hamster wheel of thoughts that we can sometimes get stuck in, whether it's, you know, what if this happens? What if this person gets sick? What's my to-do list? What do I have to get done? Like, it's so easy to kind of get caught up in that hamster wheel, and you're going and going, but not really doing anything. So I think mindfulness is kind of that perfect, accessible tool that we all have at all times, where you can really just bring yourself back to your body and where am I at in this present moment, and what can I notice, and what can I appreciate, even like making my coffee in the morning, things like that. Like I try to do everything mindfully and notice and have gratitude for that present
And
moment.
I think, you know, and I think that,
stop and smell the coffee grinds and say, like, you know, I'm grateful that I have this and I have my coffee to look forward to, and just
right. And I think, you know, the point that the point that you're making, Deidre, because we're having a little bit of problem with your audio.
yeah.
The point that you're making is so well taken about the concept of focusing on gratitude, and also this idea of, you know, it's a practice. And I think that's what everybody has, anybody that I've ever met that is using meditation as a way of life talks about a practice, and you get better at it. Well, look, at this point, Deidre, thank you so much. And thank you all. And Tracy, thank you. And Valerie and Karen, I see is here. And thank you so much. And we'll be sending this out. And one of the things that, that I've been getting email about is that people really have enjoyed this. And so much so that some agencies are actually using this as an in-service. And they're sending it out to their staff that are home in order to use it as an in-service. So what started out as an informal, conversation between Lisa, Peggy, and I, the two of you have done a wonderful, wonderful job. And I know that you'll continue to do that. Lisa, could you just talk for a moment about what the topic will be next week?
Yes, and actually what Deirdre was saying, this is a perfect segue. And that's living in a mindful way, and to eat mindfully, use nutrition, and especially sleep. I want to bring up about, because when we don't sleep well, we know how that's just adds to all our tension, all our stress, all our anxiety. It decreases our immune system. So I really want to bring out some stuff about helping to sleep. And I just want to say one thing that Deirdre, you were saying about being mindful in every moment, I think is super critical. And because what you want to do is you want to take yourself out of the hamster wheel of thoughts in your head and bring yourself back into your body. So even if it's like smelling the coffee, looking outside of my forsythia are blooming now, anything to kind of bring yourself back into your body and get yourself out of your thoughts. So, but that's next week.
Perfect. All right, Lisa, thank you so much. Peggy, thank you so much. And again, we'll see you next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Everyone have a safe week. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye. Thank you.